Welcome to another episode of This Week in Astro. It is the week ending the 8th of May. First up, we are going to go through the release logs. Beta 21 came out, and this was basically, again, bunch of fixes. Something notable to see here was the addition of the telemetry data that's now been added to the CLI, fixes to the Remark plugin, fixes to the hydration scripts, so it consolidates all the hydration scripts into a single one. Beta 22 came out. Here we're seeing again more fixes to the regressions that were happening inside some of the Astro islands in terms of the arguments that were being passed to it. Um, Again, updates towards the Remark plugins, telemetry data. Again, more on that later. But something I want to point out is Pascal basically managed to get a contribution, a fix put into the actual integrations API, and now we've got a new integration hoop thanks to Pascal. And Beta 23 came out. Here we're basically seeing just the introduction of the Astro RSS package. There was also changes to the way that JavaScript now serializes values across, which is really good. It's really impressive how they managed to figure that one out. And we've also seen the works for the deprecation of the Markdown component. You will start to see a warning to basically say that you should really start moving this over. So you'll see more information about why the reasons for the Markdown component was deprecated in the first place. The actual Markdown component now been deprecated. The actual import mechanisms has been improved significantly over the last couple of weeks, and as a result, you could actually directly import your Markdown files. So if you've got a lot of Markdown, we'd say put that in an actual Markdown file itself. Straight up stick it in a Markdown file and just import it, guys. Life's a lot easier. And then you can wrap it, so you could wrap it around your article tags, etc. So it would just drop into a slot. Anyways, back to the release log, right? So we're now on to beta 24, and what we're seeing here is the actual hook itself. So the hook will run after the production build. So after your static site assets have been generated, like when you hit npm run build or yarn build or whatever you use build, or you're building for using the SSR adapters, right? So what would happen in that respect is that you would get your static assets put out in a client directory, and you get your server assets put out as a single client, well, single server JavaScript file. Now that is being picked up by your deployment providers, and then that gives you your server-side rendering capabilities there. Now what happens is with this particular hook runs directly after that step has completed. Now, what this gives you is access to the actual manifest of the records. So the routes, the pages where things are located, all that manifest in itself is now exposed to us, right? But thank you very much, Pascal. And then next up was Beta 25, where we had the implementation of a couple of the new RFC proposals. Now, if you want to find out more information about them, don't worry, here you go, right? So this is the detailed design that Matt has now implemented. So what you see here is an API context as a type interface. And this allows us to destructure the actual request API itself that's coming through. And then from that, we could get the request, grab the headers, and the headers is a map object, so it has the cookies. We could use that as a quick search here. And if it has the hook cookies, then it's awesome. We could send it a nice 301 response setting saying the server's going to do its stuff and relocate you where you need to. Otherwise, you could throw in a 404 response and basically pop in a 404 page if the response cookie wasn't there. Next up was Beta 26 came out, and now again, this is very similar to what we've just seen. It is Matthew implementing the response, well, the open standard response API into Astro for use within the server-side rendering in terms of putting out the responses. Also with this particular release was several regressions that were happening to islands in some of the UI frameworks. Thank God that got fixed, so thank you very much, Matt. You've been hard at it this week and we really appreciate it. And for more information about the two introductions and the server-side rendering, you can find all of that out on the actual docs page. Sarah, can we get rid of that experimental tag at the top now, because it's technically not it's no longer behind an experimental flag. This page does need an update. And then last but not least is the response is beta 27. Matt applying some fixes to the telemetry, and but more importantly, it was the patches and fixes that Tony provided towards um, TurboLink integration, and also just a couple of issues that were breaking assets and style sheets when it came to building subpaths and URLs and routes. I appreciate the work, guys. Tony, Matt, Juan, Pascal, Fred, Ben. Honestly, it's been great work you guys have put in this past week. So thank you very much for all those releases. Next up, we're going to be talking about the Princess of Developer Tools. And so what she's done is overhauled the way that we've handled configuration internally in terms of providing better tools, support for tools that uses the editor config, updated the actual configurations to serve inside the workspaces and VS Code files a lot better. One of the most significant issues, as she goes classes this under miscellaneous again, is like the go-to definitions. Now, go-to definitions will properly go to the line numbers where the function is defined. So if they're in any type of script file, your JavaScripts, your TypeScript files. Additionally, the go-to definitions will no longer provide duplicate definitions for components, which is fantastic. And also, code completions have drastically increased as well. And yes, something that she's not mentioned, which I am so happy for, is that she's also added support for proper type completions from .ts files. I'm really happy about this, guys. So thank you very much, Erica, for your great work this week. Really appreciate it. Now we're coming to Juan. Like I mentioned, Juan has been working on the Markdown components, especially the remark components. He's removed the remark slug in favor of Astro's own implementation. Just a wee note on the changes that Juan had done to the remark component in terms of auto-generating IDs to the Markdown files. These are all done automatically using the GitHub Slugger API. So if a custom ID is specified, it won't be overridden, right? Any of these IDs that are added after all, the Astro IDs, the ones that, in terms of the compilation chain, is added after all the other plugins are executed. So if you do have a plugin like, for instance, the Rehype Terms and Conditions plugin, or that does need IDs, you should add your own plugin. Now we're coming to telemetry, and they did take a fair bit of time and consideration over this, was to basically make sure that this was a complete anonymous telemetry data that was only being gathered through the CLI tool, and you have the ability to toggle this. So using the command astro telemetry enable or disable, right, will toggle the ability for Astro and the core team to receive the data that they need in order for them to be able to generate the metrics, and to do that in a completely respectful and, like it says, anonymous method. They did take a fair bit of time to put this together. Now, in the short term, there was some teething problems where control command didn't exit the server. It got patched, fixed immediately. And so, yeah, we could have quit you quite enough, Astro, that particular day. You were just too much for us, and we appreciate it. Next up is something also new and something also fantastic. We've got a new integration. It is the RSS integration. As you see here, we're introducing a new package. You'll get it under the namespace of @astrojs/RSS. This is the previous method that we used to use. Now this is the new method. What we're seeing here is still using the same, as a dynamic Astro route. So within your square brackets, we're just exporting an actual XML file. So this way we're actually creating an RSS XML file, which will live at the root of your directory. So it's sit, /rss.xml. So here we're basically setting the title that we're getting, the description, bringing in the site URL utilizing the importmeta.env site, which basically is the canonical URL for the RSS feed that is needed to generate all the links. And then we're bringing in the items, which is just using the glob that is on the import meta. And those methods are highlighted and described fully in the Astro docs page. Install, add, at astrogss/RSS. And then from there, all your information that you will need is on this wee perky page that Ben and Sarah and a lot of the doc team helped get finalised. So great work on this, guys. Thank you very much. Oh yes, also to say, you could also add your own style sheets. This is something else that you couldn't do before. You have the ability to style the actual feed itself. That brings us into the end of the Astro news. Next up, we're going to be discussing the Astro RFCs. And you can always keep up to date with the RFC process by going to the with-astro/RFCs. And yeah, if you there's a wee discussion section within the RFCs page, right, that would allow you to chime in and and influence the direction of these RFCs as well, right? And also start discussions could also freely come in and hit and start a new discussion, right? There's a couple of discussions already up on the table, right? There is the setting the page caching for server-side rendering. There was also a discussion about introducing more individual page caching behavior. For those who are in the know and those who like to contribute and express their opinions about this interesting functionality, by all means, do chime in. This should be an interesting one to hear when it comes up for discussion. Next up is something proposed by Erica, is TypeScript support directly inside script tags. Now, if you want to find out more about that, by all means, do pop your head into this discussion, number 193, raised by Erica. Thank you very much. Do keep up to date with all the changes that's happened to Astro with the Astro docs. The docs team are on fire recently. Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, right? But how many PRs a day are you getting? Roughly a dozen or more? Yeah, a dozen, I reckon. A dozen or more PRs a day to the docs now. And that is, I mean, honestly, guys, that is just fantastic. Fantastic. The documentation is so much better than what it was, and it's all down to you guys. So thank you very much for that. I really do love seeing the new contributors coming in and their PRs putting towards the docs, and then helping them getting it to point of where it's been merged, and they can be actually they could say that was my sentence. I help influence that. I help do this. Ben was also chatting to Alex Toast over at Tross Codes. Two nice guys who happened to be on the same stream as each other. So this was a fantastic wee 2-hour stream, and they really was pretty much Ben helped guiding Alex in going about what he wants to move front end horse over to Astro, and he's currently in the process of doing that. And yeah, Ben was pretty much sitting in the passenger seat helping Alex do that. So those of you who want to find out and who are interested, this is some quality entertainment, guys. Do watch that. First up in this week's community showcase was a tweet that caught my eye was openmoji.org have now rebuilt their entire site on Astro, which is fantastic because this site itself is brilliant, guys. By all means, do check out openmoji.org, and here you could take a wee look over their open source project. As I said, this is I like this project because it's a bunch of professors getting their students together, teaching them about web design, teaching them about accessibility, colors, design, all that stuff. Yeah. Next up is a good friend of mine is Chris Bonger's Daily Dev Tips. Now, Chris has finally got round to finishing off his portfolio site. Again, built in Astro. The color, the accessibility in terms of the visual hierarchy, etc., is really well done on this. It's nice and striking. And by all means, do give out Chris and his blogs a good check because Chris puts out a blog a day, guys. And what he's done here is his actual blog post talking about the steps recreating his portfolio site utilizing Astro. Now, this particular post goes into a fair bit of detail. So those who are learning about making themes or wanting to set up their own portfolio sites, looking for a wee bit of inspiration, do check out Chris's particular post. Got step-by-step instructions, code blocks going about from start right the way. Sorry, let me just drag this down the side. Right the way down to the finish, right? About how to utilize the static assets, etc. And then not only that, bless his wee soul, there's even a GitHub repository that you could actually utilize as well. And you could just get this, clone this, and you're away. Next up is Elan. Now, Elan he's cool. Elan's cool. He helps a lot of people in the community. He's really supportive in terms of helping web developers, in and around his local area and especially within the Astro Discord. And he's also contributed a fair bit to the Astro project as well in the past. So, Elan, thank you very much for your help, dude. And can I just say, this particular site, do visit it, guys. It is brilliant. Um, and this is his portfolio page. It's like we just seen Chris's. This is Elan's take. Lovely. It is so, yeah, really nice. See what we're doing here? He's got a color picker. And now he's just changing the background. I mean, honestly, there's the wee things that he's done on this site is fantastic, right? And you see the hamburger menu? It is literally a hamburger. You open it, you get a pizza slice. Like legit, the guy has just got such a mind, right? And this is what I want to show you. Now, as you can see, remember this wee color picker, right? It changes the colors. And this is brilliant. So now, dark mode. Yeah, you can play about with this. But there's one more thing that I want to show you on this particular site, okay? And this is his by far the best tag selector I have seen on a blog site. Now, what he's done here, he's got, again, emojis, right? But, like, for instance, if you can notice, on the left-hand side of here, you've got certain emojis that's given away some level of category. Now, we can filter these categories at the bottom here by using these emojis. And we could add, append, yeah. I love it. I really do. I really do love that. But yes, so Ilan has also put out a couple of blog posts, right, where he was like actually discussing. Well, this is him in a Ghent meetup where he was actually discussing Astro itself, right, to a bunch of his colleagues and a bunch of developers, right. He's also released an article just in the last couple of days there, talking about deploying Astro using on Deno. Deno is slightly different to Node, but those neurotics are not going to be explained here. Nonetheless, what is explained here is how to get your Astro project using the Deno adapter and deployed successfully, right? So do give it a wee check out. And now we're on to Pascal's wee section. Off the back of last week, where we basically was introduced to something absolutely mind-blowing, right, was the notion of running Astro in a server-side worker. What this really does is like merge that line, right, between multi-page applications and single-page applications to a point where it's almost nigh on difficult to tell where that distinction is. Instigate, he's actually put a lot of his thoughts down in this discussion post that is here within the RFC channel itself. This is a fantastic post, guys. Honestly, I highly recommend taking a reread over this. What he's saying here is that the reason why this is huge is because your Astro sites are now applications, and these are now available to you offline. So they are installable as a progressive web app. The other benefits that he mentions is that it dramatically reduces the number of invocations that your functions makes to your providers, right, that your apps deploy on. Now, these invocations are chargeable, just bear in mind. So when you are on the cloud, that's how these guys do make their money. So he says that there's currently not a single framework that makes this progressive web appifying multi-page app experience as easy as what he's making this. Next up is a good friend of mine, Petra, or we know him as Gloopsies. Now he's working on a wee portfolio site. Now this is just a wee test, and I, I'm wasn't quite sure or hesitant to demonstrate it, but this is fantastic. I love this because partly because it's built with X Element, and nonetheless it is a very clean. Right, so earlier through the week he was basically just trying to get some design help, and folk in the community. This is what I love about the Astro community, is that folk actually do turn around, right, and give support. You put out, goes, what do you guys think? I have, I need some ideas, and guys came around, astronauts came around, rallied around him, and gave him what appears to be a very sleek, a very nice theme. And it's great. So yeah, do check it out, guys. I would like to see, the final product of this, so by all means, dude, best of luck. And next up is another server-side rendered demo, right? Provided to us this time by Mark Treckmans. Forgive me if I said if your name wrong, dude, right? But this is cool, right? So here is basically a login using Astro, right? And let's just check it out. So yes, this is a dashboard that Mark has created for us. Lovely. So this would all be, this has got your full authorization authentication system built in, as we've seen, it's behind a login wall, right? This is awesome. You can imagine this, right, working very well as a CMS. We could display our wee products, add our wee first product here, this is just, again, all demo stuff, right? But what he's done is absolutely brilliant. And this is his wee project here, accessible Astro dashboard. To tell you how he's managed to do all the login details, etc. It's actually quite cool what he's done with this particular project. What we've got here is a fantastic article written by Pascal himself, right, talking about service worker side rendering, SWSR. Astro itself currently does not support HTML streaming. However, Nate, Matthew, the developers in the core team has put streaming in with foresight because a lot of the generators are async generators that is used under the hood, right? And so it's like it can do streaming. Astro's just not there yet. There's a couple of things that does need to get put in. And next up is the actual blog. And what we're going to do is basically do a wee demo of what's happening with Pascal, because what he's done is actually take his demo blog and yeah, ran this on a service worker, right? So just to show, we've got our route. We've currently got our internet, the network is connected, right? And we're just hitting these endpoints. Like this is a network only endpoint. As you can see, we're just receiving a HTTP header here, right? And then, yeah, here's that post that he's written for us, right? But now, if we go in, we turn off our actual internet, we go offline, there's back to the about page. The network only page is not going to be reached because we don't have a network. The endpoint itself won't be able to be reached, right? Sound, because they're network dependent. But what about the blog? Hell yeah. You see that, guys? We're offline. A blog being rendered entirely offline for us. Right, now we're just going to take a wee look at the performance in the network, right? Because what we're going to see here, right, is the the waterfall effect, basically. Next up, we're going to take a wee look at the performance as well, right? There we go. Get rid of the web vitals, and what we're seeing down here in the network, there's a lot of concurrency, nothing blocking, nothing rendering. This is just fantastic. What we're looking at is the first contentful paint is happening within half a millisecond. The last contentful paint is happening within 600 milliseconds. So within the space of what, 200 milliseconds from each other? Next up, so Ronnie's basically talking about TurboLinks, Astro's TurboLinks integration. Again, one of those distinctions between multi-page applications and single-page applications. This is one of those integrations that is blurring the line. This is a blog post, right, that talks about how to go about implementing this. Do check it out, it's fantastic. And then next up is Ernesto. Ernesto is basically going to start teaching us math using Markdown soon. And what he's done here is told us how to go about annotating math formulas using latex within your Markdown components. This works on static side rendering. There's no need for any client side JavaScript that he says. Really appreciate it, Ernesto. Next up, not many people are aware, but this crept into the Discord community the last couple of days. But there's an outside contributor, Yoshiki. He's basically helped create an integration for the ESLint parser. So now we have ESLint available for our Astro files, which is fantastic. Legit, developing an Astro that compared to this time last year is day and night. You really do appreciate the leaps and bounds in the community driven effort that has really gone into this open source project. So thank you guys, and thank you, Yukishi, for doing this for us. For more information about this is a GitHub repo. Links will be provided down below. And to get set up with this, all you do is just go to npm install ESLint for the core dependency and also Astro ESLint parser. And that is it. Set up your ESLint file or just add in your overrides to your existing ESLint file and you're good to go. Next up, Rafid has managed to introduce a couple of updates to his image tools, right? So image tools v6, 0.6 has been released and this basically provides better support for SSR. Do check out his documentation. Again, he's put a fair bit of time and effort into this guy, so by all means do check out this particular plugin. It is fantastic. Moynham, those who don't know, is the leader of the support gang. He is there pretty much before people realise that they have a support. He's a young, dedicated developer and a great contributor to the Astro community, and we all appreciate his work. Help, spearhead the Astro Spa integrations as well. Do check it out and do give him a wee thank you if you ever come across his way. Right. So any issues, any problems or queries that you have about the image tools, by all means, do shout them out in the image channel within the Discord community. Next up is the international gang. So the international gang is a gang of contributors from across the world, and a great thank you and a shout out from Chris and everyone else. It's great to see everyone come together and doing this. What we like to basically showcase for you is the work that Chris and Hippo, right, have done. Now, to really get the translation off the ground, Hippo is basically streamline the process. So it's not being ad hoc PRs. This is PRs with direction. It's targeted. We are asking people to do certain things, look at certain pages within certain languages. German, Spanish, French, Japanese, Portuguese, Brazilian, and also simplified Chinese. So if you are native to any of those languages, pop in and by all means give everyone a wee hand if you can, right? This following pull request is where you'll find all the current status and an overview of the translation status, where you can actually go in and be effective and help contribute directly to these languages that we've just mentioned. Right now, again, this is the way Hippo has set this up is brilliant. Is a work of art. It's within the community. If you do give a wee shout out to Hippo, there is a wee way that you can figure out how he set this up yourself, so you can replicate that for your own projects. And more, any help that can go towards that effort would be greatly appreciated, guys. So thank you very much for those who are. Next up is a wee section, right, that I want to introduce from now on. It's called the Community Craic, right? To basically, turn around and demonstrate some of the funny things that got me tickled this week, right? The first one was Petra. Now, we demonstrated his site earlier. He was the one that basically gave us the demo portfolio site that he's working on, right? Now, he basically came up with an Astro hack, right, just on the side. Now, what you're seeing here, right, we're just importing a route, and then we're just getting the parameters straight off the top of it, and without using, normally you would get this within your get static path or within the dynamic Astro routes of the square brackets, like you can see here, but you sidestepped it. Like Fred said, yeah, the cops are on their way. This one here was put out by Zaid. Now, Zaid was from last week, where he was basically we were demoed the New Zealand Public Transportation Forum site. Now, Zaid's a great community member. He really does help out where he can, right? And we really do appreciate it because he's on that end of the time zone. And normally he comes in the morning, well, when everyone's either getting to sleep or is sleeping, or just, yeah, he's there for us. So we appreciate that, Zaid. And what he's done here is managed to build over, 1,056 pages, and he's done that in less than 15 seconds. And as he's saying here, there's like the build times are still crazy fast, and he loves it. So Zaid, thank you very much for the wee, tweet, man. That was nice to see. And then we have Lloyd, ladies and gentlemen. Now this is quite cool because running tests. I mean, Astro doesn't really have an official test integration per se. Those test integrations that have been done, right, the ones that he's talking about is really using the Astro component tester, which was again created by Erica. What he does is you leverages that to then, which spits out your component into your HTML string, and then you could use that to then test and assert and expect things against. The component tester is set up with Mocha and uses Chai, right? But I believe you can use that with any testing library. Like Lloyd's managed to demonstrate here, he's managed to use it with Veep test. Next up, we have Eka. Eka's lovely, right? So Eka basically turned around and said that she was having a wee problem one afternoon, I believe, right? And just to get ahead of anybody else who's having problems with the existing Prettier plugin, and she's managed to give us a wee couple of workarounds, and Sarah egging her on, telling us where to put it, Eka. It's like any of these solutions, these are needed to be documented. So yeah, your 2 hours that you spent on that, buddy, is not effort wasted. And then we have Manuel. Honestly, even if you wish to, offer yourself up to be a crash test dummy when it comes to testing Astro, especially on different deployment chains or utilizing things on, like, Pascal, when it comes to cutting edge stuff, right? We welcome you. We will throw you under those buses, but we will also be there to pick up your corpses. The deadline for the hackathon has now been extended to the 16th of May, which is fantastic because it means that we got just over a week to get all the nitty gritty readmes, everything set up, the way, we got time to polish it, which means that IntelliForm or FICO has got time to sleep. If you've got an integration or a submission for a website or a theme that you're wanting to build, from the community's point of view, is fantastic because it gets you all excited, gets you using Astro, and not only that, it surfaces a lot of issues up, especially the support threads. The last couple of weeks has been inundated with people just looking for help with their projects that they're pretty much wanting to do with the actual hackathon itself, and it's great to see, and it's great to see everyone who is jumping in the support thread itself to help everyone else out during this time. This is the hackathon, guys. It is meant to be community driven. So by all means do help each other out. For those who want to find out about the actual hackathon, go to astro.build/hack. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I wish you all a fantastic week ahead, guys. Right? Whatever you are doing, wherever you are in the world, I wish you guys are well and safe. Peace and love. Peace and love.